the BYU football program obviously is enjoying a magical season. We all know that. But what impact is it having on the recruiting front? Well, I hope it's having a positive impact, because you could see, if you follow on social media, all these athletes out there that were visiting BYU over the weekend, they were absolutely enthralled with what BYU put on the field. That absolutely helped sell BYU to these young men. The biggest of which I thought on Saturday in terms of football recruits, because there's a certain somebody in the basketball realm that we'll get to in a moment that was there as well. But in the football realm, it's Brock Harris. Now, Brock Harris is not a member of the 2025 recruiting cycle. He's actually more than a year out before he will sign with a football program, but he's a 5-star talent at tight end. And you could tell me that watching that on the field on Saturday night, you absolutely got to believe that kid was like, man, you know what? This would be a really cool thing to be a part of. Now, there's some of you say, well, they don't use the tight ends enough, Jake. Sure, they may not use tight ends to the level that you would deem adequate to attract a guy of his caliber, but he's got bloodlines. His dad played at BYU. But the more important thing is the recruiting for BYU, I think, is absolutely going to see an uptick when BYU is 6-0. The nice part is the BYU Cougars can go out there and sell themselves as we're the top dog in the state right now. Utah has slumped to a 4-2 record. They're no longer ranked in the national polls. This was a team that some people out there had them in the top 10 to start the season, and we're like, it's inevitable. Utah's going to run through this conference and go to the college football playoff. They're no longer ranked, folks. Utah State, they're 1-5. And I don't mean to jump on the proverbial graves of those two teams, but in the recruiting sense, BYU's flying high right now, and they've got to take advantage. They did take advantage in one small way by attracting a young man by the name of Vincent Tautua out of St. Louis High School out there in Hawaii. Now, I am a person who believes that BYU should be mining the islands for talent as much as possible, but the problem is everybody goes over to the Hawaiian Islands to bring talent stateside if they can manage it. BYU got their first commit in the 2025 cycle out of the Hawaiian Islands in Tautua. And watching his film, this is a young man, much like the other edge rushers for BYU in this recruiting class. He's now the 5th of the 19 commitments they have currently. He flashes an ability to get after the quarterback. He's got a good size. 6'4", listed 235 to 240 pounds. I believe he told 24/7 Sports, our good friend Jeff Hansen, he was nearing 250. So if that's true, that's absolutely elite size for an edge rusher. But the thing I like about this young man is he absolutely gets after it. He is a guy who find ball, see ball, go get ball. And I don't mean to break it down that simply, but I love guys who play football with just a mean streak and a hunger to go and make plays. And that's what I see on film from Tautua. I've talked about it, how I think BYU needs to get back to becoming more of a force when it comes to recruiting Hawaii. Well, this could help do it. Now, Tautua's got to do his part and come to BYU and thrive in Provo, but he'd be a part of a long line. Remember, going back, BYU has had a lot of success with guys coming out of the Hawaiian Islands to come and play for this football program. And Tautua is going to get that opportunity. Now, if you look at his offer sheet for Tautua, he has a number of high-level offers, but the reports out there say that some of these teams backed off on him. Now, he's the 112th edge rusher in the 2025 recruiting cycle. He's got a 3-star rating, 84 and change from our friends over at 24/7 Sports. So he's not the highest level pass rusher BYU has brought in, but I'm not going to ever question what Kelly Poppinga sees in an edge rusher. Funny enough, I was reading from Jeff Hansen that Tautua had an opportunity to catch up with Fred Warner on Saturday night at this game. And by the way, Tautua was on an official visit to BYU this past weekend. So that obviously played a role in him picking the Cougars as quickly as he did. But he had a chance to catch up with Fred Warner. And if I'm Fred Warner, I'm telling him, hey, that guy that is recruiting at Kelly Poppinga, he got me to the NFL. Kyle Van Noy got him to the NFL. Alani Fua got him to the NFL. Kelly Poppinga's track record is he will put guys in the league and they will have very, very solid, if not downright legendary careers. Kyle Van Noy is now more than a decade in. I mentioned Fred Warner earlier today. He's on a Pro Football Hall of Fame track right now. Well, Tautua, if I'm being recruited by Kelly Poppinga, I'm like, hey, can you help me do that too? That's the thing about this. Kelly is he's got an incredible eye for talent out there. And once again, Tautua, he may not have the highest rating when it comes to 24/7 Sports, just a 3-star and kind of a middle tier 3-star talent. But Kelly Poppinga sees something on tape and probably has seen something from him that says, all right, this kid's got something we can bring in. The other thing about it is BYU, they're seeing a resurgence in terms of their pass rush, a resurgence, I should say, of their pass rush this year, getting after it, getting sacks on the quarterback. They said in their post-game notes that 11 different players got hits on Noah Fafita on Saturday, among 14 total QB hits. They were absolutely tattooing that young man, and he's going to be feeling it in the lead up to their next game, speaking of Arizona. But the biggest thing for the Cougars is they need to continue to get that production from the pass rush. Not all these guys are going to be here in Provo forever, and a guy like Tautua is probably looking at it and saying, okay, I got next, guys, but he's not going to do it alone. I really like the way that they have gone about revamping their recruiting style. Speaking of BYU, they're looking for long, lean athletes. There's a place for guys who may be undersized and are just absolutely ultra productive types. But trust me, there's always a place for a guy like that. But when you're recruiting for measurables, what Tautua shows at 6'4", 235 pounds is like the prototype of what you want in this program. I talked with Salifano earlier this season. He plays over at Westlake High School, literally a stone's throw away from my house here in Saratoga Springs. Salifano was like 6'5", 6'6", and 220 pounds. There's a type. I'm telling you, there's an archetype that BYU is trying to go after. They're trying to meld both the measurables, but also production. That's one thing about this is, and I know that may sound like, well, Jake, you're talking about what Ed Lamb and Elisa Tuiaki went after at BYU. Okay, there's a balance here that needs to be struck. Obviously, the previous regime under Ed Lamb and Elisa Tuiaki was all about measurables. Production was, if you have the measurables, we'll take it, even if you don't have the production. What BYU is looking at here in the case of like a guy like Tautua, Salifano, there's 5 edge rushers in this recruiting class. All of them, I believe, have the measurables, what you want from a pass rusher, but more importantly, they also balance that measurable status along with production on the field at the high school level. There's a balance to be struck there, and I think that Kelly Poppinga, so far, he's nailing it. And once again, it doesn't hurt to have guys like a Fred Warner, like a Kyle Van Noy, like an Alani Fua on down the list of linebackers / pass rushers who have played for Kelly Poppinga that you can call up and say, hey, Vincent, you want to talk to Fred Warner real quick? Yeah. Ask him what I did for him in his career. That is absolutely an incredible recruiting pitch to have. And I hope that Kelly Poppinga uses it to great effect because he absolutely should. This is a guy who has proven time and time again in his time at BYU, even during his time at Virginia and also at Boise State, that he can find talent literally anywhere, bring it in, mold it, and allow it to thrive in wherever he is coaching at. And I think that Vincent Tautua is going to be the latest beneficiary of that, and that should excite you as a Cougar fan moving forward here with the BYU Cougars sitting at 6-0 and riding high.